I thought you wouldn't, you were not going to be here.
By the way, I was in touch with Tilly. She has an appointment with a palliative care doctor right now. So she said, don't even bother calling to remind her.
I just called her,
Oh,
but she's
Because I thought
heard from
Marianne
you.
was going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything left from Logion 106 that you want to talk about or bring up?
Well, I can say something. I was in the contemplative outreach in Latin America on Saturday. It was beautiful, and it was about the ascension. And for me, this Logion 106, this transformation of two into one, is the ascension, is the moment when the one meets the other and become one. Matter and spirit, or it's the revelation to the moment it goes up, reveals for me. It's a revelation.
Are they talking from the physical sense, or are they talking from the spiritual sense of non-duality?
The spiritual sense of non-duality.
Duality, okay. Mhm. Have you experienced that, Cornelia?
No. I can say yes and I can say no. And if there are moments, but that I would, now that knowing this, I would say yes. But in the moment I experienced, I didn't know what was that.
Mhm. You just knew something significant had happened.
And then I tried to come back to the same experience, and
Cornelia, something that we were reading last week, and I don't remember where it was talking about this particular experience of union. So I've not experienced it, but it was saying that when people have this awareness, they are still able to function completely in this world and do all the things that they need to do, as opposed to some other kinds of mystical experiences where you would not be any more connected with what's going on here. I mean, you would not be able to function. You would be in a different mental place. But in this point of non-duality, this might have even been in Richard Rohr, I can't remember. In this place of non-dual union, there's that total cohesion between the spiritual and the temporal, so that you can still do all the things that you need to do. If that's any clarification, that's not my experience. That's what I read.
thank you.
So how does living in non-duality affect your perception of the world, the people in it, and how you fit into it?
This is to Barbara or to
Anybody,
anybody?
anybody.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. How does living with the perception of non-duality impact how you interact and function in the normal world, where everything most of the time is perceived as dual. It's you or me. And in non-duality, we are looking at we are all one. So how does that change or modify how you function in the world with a shift of perception to non-duality?
I would like to say I no longer think of non-duality as all one. I see it as the capacity to experience the single, uh, the the manifestation of the 10,000 things, simultaneous with the experience of the whole. So I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and finding the capacity to hold both in presence.
And where does that come from inside of you? Where do you feel that in your body?
It isn't just inside, it incorporates the whole as well as what's inside.
Right, but I'm talking in terms of you as a felt sense in your body. Do you experience that someplace in your body when you're able to do that?
No,
Okay.
it is embodied, but it's not in a single place. It's
Okay.
more a sense of aliveness.
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
Does that resonate with anybody else's experience?
I have just some experience, just some flashes. I can resonate of unity. And I think I comment with this group one time where I was able just to connect for several minutes. Okay. And I was connected. I was unable to do anything. Okay. But during I had been able to do a silent retreat several times for 10 days retreat, but silent, just where I had to be silent doing centering prayer several times per day. Just after the third day, I lost all these senses and perception. I was and at the end, just I lost totally my functions, and I I I need help just to get into the airport and get to the plane, and I couldn't function for several days when I got home. And they recommend me just don't do anything, just and it took me like a week just to be able to come back. That all my senses come back just full 100%. And I hear just with my yoga teachers, they say the same thing. If you get totally at that level, you cannot function anymore. You lose perception, you lose your senses. And my teachers is, he said, just, I don't want to lose it. I want to live and I want to teach. And I want just to teach people so they are able to transform and be more. and he gave us examples, but you lose your senses. You lose. Anyway, that is my experience.
Sometimes I get what, like Barbara was saying, the, did I get confusion if it's that a mystical experience or a non-duality experience? Because after the ascension, the day we were doing the Lectio Divina with a work of Thomas Keating, suddenly I realized that everything was an ascension if I treat it as an ascension, not just like an object over there. That's you and that's me. No, in everything, God is revealing Himself, and it's coming out and flowering. I don't know how to express that word. And in the moment I get that, for me now, it's this week has been different in that way. Seeing everything like that, like the flowers, the people, a rock, a paper, whatever. Always treating with a reverence. And that for me, it's part of this perception of no separation, of no separation. So if it has a sense in my body, no, I haven't felt it, but it's less. What has been less judgmental, no more judging the other thing what I'm dealing with, or no more. There's no separation. There's like it's a different. And suddenly I involved. If it's traffic or something, I just lose that the moment.
So what do you think you could do that you could keep that moment even in traffic jam or something that perhaps would trigger you out of that space?
I would think the welcoming prayer in that moment, welcoming the sensation of the chaos in this city, completely chaotic. And we had elections with presidential elections, and no. But I have felt in this week less weight. WEIGHT. That also is a
Anything arise for anybody else?
This morning, yes, although not about the Logion, as I was walking my dog, and pondering the thought that our task as humans is to learn how to love in this dimension of corporeality, this stuff that we are in this world. And in our unity with everything else. And Cornelia, you didn't mention that beautiful bird that's singing when you were listing things. It's so marvelous that all of this created world maybe has the same journey to make. How does it love? How does it manifest love as a tree? How does it manifest love as a caterpillar? And it's a whole, since those kinds of life forms are so different from us, we don't have any capacity to know, but maybe they are already manifesting perfectly what it is to love in the form of a bird. And so we get this gorgeous song as well as the feathers and the mating patterns. And I don't know if your birds migrate or not, they don't come here. Anyway, that was just a flash of something new today for me.
You know, it strikes me, Barbara, as you're saying that, how lucky those creatures are not to have the brain to have to think about all the things that are in the world.
They don't have to worry.
Yeah, they don't have to worry. They don't have to, you know, try to get through all of the muck that goes on in our world. You know, and I'm struck with that, with what's happened over the past week, what happens continually. So it just, you know, just trying to get moments of presence out of that, and how not to let, how to be present to what happened for those people in Texas and Buffalo and wherever, and how not to get pulled down by it. It's kind of where I'm sitting right now. So that's why your story struck me, that they're very lucky. I appreciate all those little creatures and the birds and the sound, but I've never thought of them as lucky. It was like that thought just came out, popped into my head.
And to be so fully equipped to be able to handle whatever their life pattern is.
Right.
It's just built in and they just do it.
That's right. Without even thinking. Yeah.
We have to figure it out.
That's right.
Barbara, the name is Tufted Bird.
Tufted bird. Sorry, that's not a scientific name. Thank you, Cornelia. Tufted bird.
Is it a pet bird, Cornelia?
No, it's this.
Oh, wow. Outside.
Ooh, lovely.
Yeah.
It's full of them.
Wow. What a sound.
So anything else that you want to share on this? It's it's an experience that you know when it happens.
Mm.
But for me, I know that I can't hold on to it. I have to appreciate it for when it arises, when it has happened, and then there are times that I can be back in exactly that same place in some situations. It kind of like triggers a felt sense memory of when it happened. For me, it's all heart. It's like the heart opens wide and just lets everything in, and we are one. And it's like I see the essence in the tree and the grass and a rock and an insect. I'm less likely to stomp a spider if it's in the house, and more likely to capture it and release it. But yeah, I feel a definite shift of perception and of heart when that happens.
Well, I can say something that has shifted in me is that now with an animal, I can contemplate it. Before, I was grab the phone that I want to take a picture. I just wanted to, but now then I realized that taking the picture of the bird was like taking him in a cage. And I was not doing the contemplation with the bird. Be with the bird. Be with the deer. I remember in the States, where I was in a Cynthia's Virgil class, and at night I went back to the cabin, and suddenly there was the two deers. Where when we don't see here in Colombia, we have, but we never see a deer here. And I don't have a phone. I don't have a. But, and then suddenly I said, no, just look at them. And the moment I went and I said, okay, I just look at them, and I went to search for my phone and they disappeared. So now I try to see and do not take the picture, because the picture, it's like having something, it's like putting in a cage the animal in me. And I lose the moment to be with that. It's,
I remember the day when I was in Bali that I danced with a grasshopper.
Uh,
It was about this long. It was red, and it flew and landed on the sidewalk in front of me. And I stopped and I squatted down, and I really became immersed into what does it feel like to be this grasshopper, to have 6 appendages. I think it was 6. Yeah, 6 appendages.
Mm-hmm.
To view the world through multiple compound eyes and make sense of it, and perceive something as big as a human being. And we were just looking at each other, and then it went. And so I tilted my head, and then it tilted again. And we did that a little bit, and then it picked up one foot and moved a foot. And so I moved my hand forward, and I moved the foot back, and I went back, and we were doing that back and forth, and then there'd be a head in there. And then we stopped, and all of a sudden I had this sense, this sucker's gonna jump. And I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden it does, and it flies so close to my ear, I could almost feel its wing. And even though I knew it was coming, I went backwards, sat down on the sidewalk, and started laughing. And this man was walking by, and he said, "It went that way."
Wow.
And I looked at him and I said, "I danced with a grasshopper." And he took this long route around me.
Oh.
I couldn't find that grasshopper again. It was just, but it was like being that present with another living thing.
Pat, the grasshopper was probably disappointed to discover you couldn't jump.
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
And and that experience just totally changed my perception of the world and everything that was in it. And just brief, one other time during the pandemic, 2020, I was walking the path in the field just north of us, holding space and saying prayers for all of those affected by COVID. And I'm looking at all of the trees as I'm walking by, and I stopped dead in my tracks. And it was like, the trees are sentinels. They are rooted, all the plants are rooted, and 24/7, they hold space for us. And we give them carbon dioxide, they give us oxygen. And we have that relationship going. And they stand and they hold space and they take whatever we give them in the air. And they try to get back to us what we need as best they can. And I had this sense of roots going down and being a trunk of a tree. And what would it be like to have the branches and have things move in the air and the leaves flutter? Does it tickle? And, you know, those are a couple of the things that really felt to me like, you know, that we were really one, just different forms, but it's all there. And yeah, those kinds of things are what just keep me in the place that I want to be.
It's beautiful.
So
I had something similar happen with a chickadee. And like you, at a certain point in the dance, and I was mimicking the chickadee's call, and we were going back and forth, and it kept upping the ante and making its song more complicated. And it finally got to a point where I just burst into laughter and said, "You got me. I can't do that." It was so amazing though, because I felt the dance. It was a different kind of dance than yours with the grasshopper, but it clearly we were playing with each other.
yeah. Well, there were a couple of times when we were doing that I'm going, is this part of a mating ritual? Am I confusing this poor grasshopper? But you know, I guess I share those, and I really appreciate what you shared, because that's what I go back to when I get out of that sense of presence and oneness, and I get tied up again into this frantic world we live in. And I feel myself reacting instead of responding. I can pull up those experiences,
Mhm.
and then I can get back to that unity place. Because there's a lot of times that life pulls you out, and I find myself reacting instead of responding.
Mhm.
Is there anything else?
I'm just wondering about. I'm sitting with Anne's the challenge she named of how we're holding the violence and death that we've all heard of, and some of us have been closer to. For myself, I've had to take many pauses to be quiet and with the feelings that were coming up, and then to see if the word that I use is grounding.
Mhm.
A number of different teachers offer this different ways, but for me, it's simultaneously just feeling my feet on the ground with the feeling, and just opening the possibility that the feelings that there's a connection with the earth, that there's some integrative possibility if I can allow the feeling to maybe soften, to flow a little bit, but it's with a sense of groundedness on the earth. That's just part of my personal practice of holding as much as I can rather than going numb, which is what sometimes happens as the alternative. So I don't know if any of you have other ways of being with. If so, I'd love to hear how you are holding.
Well, I've been doing the practice of Tong Lin. That's, with a couple of additions, like you, Marianne, I ground. I really ground deeply. And one thing that I learned when I first started Tong Lin was I thought I would feel something in that, the bringing in that pain and suffering, and really grounding and lighting up my heart, and transforming all of that pain into love and compassion, and exhaling it out. And I thought, going to, feel something happen. And I finally learned that I have to trust, I have to have faith and trust that energetically what gets transmuted will happen. And I've also expanded that to being grounded, like the trees communicate through their roots.
Mhm.
I feel it going out through the earth like roots to all those people who are affected. And maybe that holding of them will give them some peace and solace, as well as the exhale of energy into the air, that there are two elements then involved that perhaps will give them some peace.
And I thank you both for the idea of grounding, because I haven't considered that, but I do it not infrequently by way of the Tonglen also. And I realized a long time ago that if I try to take the pain in and I'm conscious of it being pain and conscious of the opposite of pain that I want to out breathe, then I'm thinking too much. So I've just most of the time just inhale the divine and exhale blessing. And what I've found doing this for various people and situations is that it's allowed me to feel compassion for perpetrators,
Mm.
which I never would have felt before. And with Texas, a huge amount of compassion for this poor fellow who's 18, whose life is ended, whether he's executed or not, his life is over with in many ways. A huge amount of compassion for him, and then it went on into realizing how many victims there are. There are 19 children and 2 teachers. They're the families and friends of 19 children and 2 teachers. There's the shooter who was a victim, all of his family, the police who did nothing. They're terrible victims. I can't imagine what that feels like, to have not had the training or the courage or whatever it was to know that's the job and not be able to do it for whatever reason. All these victims, everybody was a victim. And it all comes for me out of doing that kind of prayer work.
And you said that so well, Barbara, and that's what I mean by by the faith and trust that whatever happens, because I don't want my head pretending to make those changes and trying to act. It's just being present and having faith that as I breathe and focus on my heart, that those changes will go out there and get the brain out of it. Yeah, you said that beautifully.
Yes.
Trust that it will happen, not try to make it happen.
I was not so deep as you, both of you, or not both of all of you did it. Just when I was exposed to what happened, I was through many things going on, and I did not want to get in details in the beginning. It was very painful, and I think the first 2 days, no news, and what I did was just all my meditation and prayer were just concentrated just to give all the energy to them. Just no discussion at all. Just whatever my heart was producing just for them. And after a week, for me, just the most painful in my heart is that there is no reaction here.
Mm.
And the process is repeating again and again and again and again and again. And we'll repeat it again and again and again until when? And you see in other countries that just what happened here just detonate in some reaction, some law, and here nothing. And that is just, but the only thing that I can do is concentrate just my energy and my meditation. That is the only thing positive that I can give to. And this is the only thing that we can do right now as a contemplative. And this is the work. And this is the time. Just I learned just with in the wisdom schools, but I haven't had the opportunity to practice as often. It's not like a tool that I have under my belt.
Yeah.
Just it's not a tool that I have like. I mean, I have another tools, but it's not. Anyway.
But your tool is whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever works for you that helps you feel like that you are helping somehow.
Yeah.
The intent is more important than the action.
I'm reminded, because of my own interspiritual orientation, that there's the parallel. In Buddhism, it's called Tonglen, but in Christianity, Cynthia calls it intentional suffering.
Mhm.
And it's the willingness to feel
Okay.
on behalf of those who are in pain, so that you're sharing in and helping in that way. I think that's what we're all doing in our own, to our own capacity, and with our own what's the word? What we're drawn to, what we're called to.
When I saw in PBS the 14 children, they usually they have the photograph and the story. So oh my God, it just broke my heart. really. But anyway,
The other thing for me is I have to respect the limits because I don't want to go to numbness or overwhelm. So I have to titrate. You know, sometimes it's just a little, and then I have to ground, breathe, and then I can do a little more. But it's very much a flow.
hi Raul, welcome.
Hi, Raul.
Hi, Raul.
Sorry I'm late.
I think we were waiting for you. Huh?
We've just been finishing up 106 in many different aspects. Let's put it that way.
Didn't sound like 106.
So,
That is where we started, Raul, really, honestly. But we've been in this, you know, an especially deep place.
Right.
So 106 got us someplace we certainly didn't anticipate, but it was wonderful. Thank you.
yeah. So,
Wow.
okay. Shall we move on to 107 then? See where that one leads us today?
Deeper, deeper.
Deeper, deeper. This, you know, I'm up to my hips. Let's go deeper.
I think just that will bring us deeper because I think it's the same theme.
Okay. Anne, would you like to read it for the
Okay.
first time, please?
Cornelia, don't you mind if you put just in the
I put it in the chat, but I can put it again.
I cannot see it.
Wait.
Yeah, it's not there for me either.
There. No?
No, just press return.
Maybe give me the host back. I know you can't give me the host back. Well, I don't know why. Who can see the message?
Well, it's okay, don't worry. Just I have my book. Don't worry.
Does everybody have it?
Can Josefina make Cornelia co-host?
I can. She make me co-host.
Right.
Because of the recording, yes.
Right. So can't we do you going back to her being a co-host and the recordings still continue?
Did my chat message get across to everybody?
Yep. I saw it. Well, wait a minute.
Yes, I see you, Raul.
Yep.
Maybe you could put.
Oh, can you put it up?
Yeah,
There it is.
now, yes.
I
Now.
put it twice.
Oh, there it is.
Yep.
It's missing the beginning. I guess it's not really missing.
We got part of it.
Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Let's see. We don't have the first two lines.
Oh,
Yes, you
But
do.
we've got. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there's a little scrolly thing. I found it. Sorry about that. Okay.
okay.
Here we go.
Yeshua says, the divine realm can be compared to a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of the finest went astray. So he left the 99 and went out searching for it until he found it. Troubled, he said, I longed for you more than the 99.
Okay. Marianne, would you read it for the second time?
Yeshua says, the divine realm can be compared to a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of the finest went astray, so he left the 99 and went out searching for it until he found it. Troubled, he said, I longed for you more than the 99.
Okay, and Raul?
Yeshua says, the divine realm can be compared to a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of the finest went astray, so he left the 99 and went out searching for it until he found it. Troubled, he said, I longed for you more than the 99.
Okay, words and phrases.
Troubled.
Divine realm.
Astray.
Compare.
I longed for you.
Finest.
Went astray.
Okay, your thoughts about this?
Well, now that I'm with a imaginal realm of Cynthia and the interconnection of both realms, or what she calls the world 24 or world 48, for me is those 100 sheep are all those, what she calls the communion of saints. All those, they are there. But suddenly there's one lost soul. What happens is you can um, flow or come down to this world, let's say, in aid, in search for the one lost. So for me, this is a Logion of hope, that if I get lost, he will be there.
Mhm.
That I am being loved, always. I can get lost, but I am being loved.
I what I sense here is the two-way reaching. The divine realm is reaching for us, just as we are reaching for the divine. And it's especially attentive, the divine realm, if we're lost or if we go astray.
That was the piece that struck me as well, Marianne. The piece that you can be astray and the divine realm will be looking, will be seeking. Yeah. And for myself, with all the work that I did with the Afghans and carrying the weight of that, I was astray because I didn't have the capacity or the energy, I think, to do both, to do what I had been able to do before in terms of um, keeping a spiritual practice. Even though I tried, it was the head took over that piece. And I was aware for some time that I needed to get it back, but and having kind of, well, definitely having resigned from the leadership has given me the space and more of the energy to really focus on that. Of course, it brings up all other sorts of questions, but that's for another day. Yeah. But so that concept really struck me even as I was reading it to begin with.
For me, it kind of raised pondering on the practice or the concept of blindly obeying what someone is telling you that you need, that the Bible is telling you to do, versus the one who questions.
Mm.
That if you're questioning, you're going to stand out and to get an answer, then there is that direct connection. You know, I kind of look back at school. The teacher is up there is presenting, and the students are going along with everything that the teacher is saying and doing, you know, whatever assignment or activity or whatever. But the one who looks at it slightly differently and raises a question of maybe why, or what if we did, but challenged it, then pulls the attention to that question and can take it to a different dimension. Is this making any sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of is resonating me in that one way, that when you go astray, there is that opportunity for growth and dialogue and change, rather than just blindly following along. So that's kind of how it struck me. Because I know there's some religions that you just don't question, you just
Right.
follow, and
Right.
questioning is not allowed. So then how do you deal with that inner conflict that appears to be there for one who questions? So.
We have a friend who has sheep. Um, the sheep follow him because he's always leading them to something good. So
Fresh grass.
fresh grass, or yeah, something nice. So the one that would go astray is looking for probably the same thing. Thinks maybe it will be over here and not over there. So I think that's maybe another way of saying what you're saying, Pat. The one who doesn't seem to be with the shepherd is not because that one has left the shepherd, but is so intently looking for what the shepherd will be providing, and ends up in a different place than the rest of the crowd.
Thank you, Barbara. Well rephrased.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Come to the farm.
I don't know, just when I read it, the word compare just struck me the most. And that's the divine realm compared to a shepherd. And and just it's like I start thinking just the weight of in the Gospels. We are used to the Jesus listen just as a shepherd, and we are the readings just is a very we are used to this reading, and here just I noticed just is for me it's like a kind of it's calling just for unity. Even just that is one just left, just his he wants that everything is totally together. That he's taking care of. He wants everything just together. And I don't know why, just I had the other thought that the divine reality just is connected with the experience of non-duality that we have. So, and I don't know why, just I have that feeling. That is the feeling of unity that we experience here. Anyway.
It's interesting. I've had this thought for a while, that since we've been off on our own, away from our leader, so to speak, Bill, who started this, that we're exploring all sorts of deeper realities, I think. And I never would have thought that would have happened. It wasn't a conscious thought anyway, that my thought was, well, we'll continue because we'll continue. But I never expected to have happened what happened, what has happened in our group here. Probably I never expected to happen what happened with Bill either, but it's just, this is different. And in a way, I'm finding it so much richer. So I just thought I'd share that.
It seems to me much more of a cohesive community somehow now.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And the thought occurred to me as we were talking about practice and prayer and being grounded in how we hold the negative pieces, that I don't know if I could feel Pam's presence or just it was reminiscent of her at a time, one of the meetings that we had, where she was asking about resources for prayer. I don't know if you remember that.
Mhm.
I sent her a book, the name of a book that I had, that a group had done. It's very simplistic. But I just, and as I've tried to come back myself into a more of spiritual practice, or connect to that spiritual practice, I think is the better word. I'm reminded of her. And so she's here with us, just like Tilly. is here with us.
Mhm.
You know, she would have loved these conversations.
I think Steve too.
Yes, yes, yes. I think Steve too. I agree. Yeah.
This
We
this
are
look
mentioned,
also. Ah, don't go, Barbara.
just to toss this out and then come back to Cornelia. We're reading with our Cistercian Lake Templatives group, of which Roll and I are in a 1-year formation process. We're reading a book by Michael Casey called Fully Human, Fully Divine. And the chapter that we have for this Saturday reflects on Jesus as the learner and always ready to learn from everything that was going on around him. And one of the points that Casey made is that Jesus, so this is working only with the synoptic gospels, but that's fine, was always tossing out things that people had to think about. It wasn't definitive things that you're going to answer with a yes or a no. It's things that make you think. And that's just so delightful to have it recognized. I'm not sure I've heard it recognized quite so significantly with people who are only referencing the synoptics, but here he is. So we're not going to have any definitive answers about 107 any more than we have about any rest of them, because we all have to work at it. And that's the point.
Yes.
We each have to do our work.
Cornelia, what were you going to share?
No, suddenly this Logion took me to the fishermen, where they caught all those I mean, all kinds of fish, but there was only a big fish. And he stayed with the big fish and put the rest again into the sea.
Earl says, where is that? I don't recognize it from the synoptics. Was it one of the Logia that you did?
No, not Logion in the gospel and the normal. It's a synoptic, the normal gospels, the
Okay,
Matthew. I don't know. I would have to search.
yeah.
I'm thinking of the pearl of great price, but
Also,
I'm concerned by the one of the finest got lost.
Went astray.
Well, we want to straight. Sorry. And what if one of the not finest had gone astray? Would he have gone after that one? I mean, the synoptic gospel is quite clear, right? The
What?
synoptic gospels, whichever one it is, doesn't mention the quality of the sheep that got lost.
Right,
He just went after the lost sheep.
right.
The quote unquote quality of that sheep was not an issue. So I'm struck by that in the Logion.
The other translation, the Leloup translation, has the same, it's a different distinction, but again, the one that goes astray is special.
Now,
And it leaves me wondering if it's the going astray that makes it special,
Yeah.
but the words, I have that sense of being a little troubled like you, Raoul. It's like,
And Leloup says,
yeah.
the thought before we started was suggested that we work with Bauman first and sort of finish with Bauman's version and then go in to Lulu because she said they're so different.
Yeah, the interpretation is different. Yeah.
So I don't feel finished with the language that we have here, and I would love to do it sequentially if that works for you.
Okay.
If you really feel it, I mean, for me that makes sense, but I'm willing to go with consensus of the group.
Can you repeat, Barbara? Do you want just to go to with the loop or just
No,
continue?
my preference is to finish with Bauman until we feel like it's talked through, and then go to
Okay.
the other one and start at the
Okay.
top
Yeah.
again.
I-
What I was
Yeah.
what struck me is the shepherd troubled, he said. Why would he be troubled? And in the Bauman, I longed for you more than the 99. I don't know whether that means I longed for you more than these other 99, or whether I longed for you more than the 99 longed for you. But why would the shepherd be troubled?
Right, because you don't know if he's troubled because one disappeared, or if he's troubled because he likes that one better than the other 99.
Because his favorite sheep didn't follow him. Ego.
Ah, I hadn't seen that element, Raoul. That brings in a whole nother piece, doesn't it?
Say that again, would you, Raul? I think I missed it.
I just said ego, my favorite, this girl I really like doesn't like me back. Or,
You're kind of breaking
my
up.
best friend, my best friend went out with somebody else today instead of with me. I mean, I got stiffed.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
I think some of us as a human beings need more God, the presence in a different way, just to guide or to be nearby in order just to complete, to be whole. And so for me, that is the meaning. Just that sometimes you can leave the others because the others can just keep going, but there are a little few ones that even one that need attention, need more. They're the trouble ones. Probably that is the meaning. I'm just.
Well, could we take this one step farther and look at the shepherd as Jesus and his relationship with Mary Magdalene versus the other disciples in terms of how she understood him and was connected, was on the same wavelength? So could it be stretched to looking at that relationship? Or maybe it's alluding to that relationship by using this example with sheep.
How do you see her as going astray?
She wasn't the same as the other disciples. She was, and astray, I'm not looking at it as pulling it apart, but she had evolved to a different level of consciousness than the other disciples. And so she therefore could be more precious to him because she understood where the others didn't, but yet they were following him, trying to figure it out.
and they were still into the Dick and Jane readers. Cornelia may not know about that, but once upon a time, when we learned in first grade how to read, it was, see Jane, look, Dick, Dick sees Jane, okay?
See
That's
Spot run.
how we started. So Mary was writing essays already while the rest were writing See Spot Run.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And she would have felt so alone, my golly.
That's a wonderful interpretation, Pat. I can see that there.
I don't know where that came from, but it just popped into my mind. Yeah.
Well, isn't that in a sense who we are in terms of our local church congregations, if we're still going to church, feeling somewhat very present but also not present in another way? I mean, that
Yeah.
is referencing Mary and the relationship with the group of the apostles,
Right.
disciples, I guess, at that point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll offer the counterpoint
Go ahead,
Good.
please,
to
please.
the specialness of the one sheep. The counterpoint is that it's the wholeness, the completion that Josephina spoke of. And I'm being very personal here. A long time ago, the reason I got my donkey that you've heard me speak of was because I had 3 sheep. I definitely had a favorite. But if one of the others had gotten lost, I wouldn't have been able to rest until I got that one back because of the experience of everybody's safe at home in that sense of wholeness or completeness. So that's just the counterpoint to the one that goes away having to be special, the way Mary Magdalene is special.
Well, and that lines right up with the old concept of teacher's pet.
The grass is always greener just popped into my mind. You know, all of a sudden the sheep is gone, and that's my favorite sheep. We can convince ourselves of that very easily.
Or what's important isn't that one sheep, it's the wholeness of the
Yeah.
group together.
Yeah. Maybe that one sheep is looking for a better shepherd. I'm going to change churches. I'm going to find a better shepherd.
Is that heresy?
You know, I've been trying to think, Cornelia, you know that I think it's a Logion from Thomas about the one fish and the many fish.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think,
possible?
yes, I'm trying to look because I read it recently. Let me
Yeah.
just
I think that's why it doesn't ring a bell for the synoptic gospels. I think it's in here.
yeah.
So be back at the beginning. We can tell you
Yes,
when
it's
we
in the
find it. I don't
beginning.
remember it.
That sounds familiar to me.
Oh, okay, it sounds familiar. Okay.
Yes, it's a Logion 8.
Yep. Bye-bye.
8. Yeshua said, a human being is like a good fisherman who casts his net into the sea. When he pulls it out, he finds a multitude of little fish. Among them there is one fine, large fish. Without hesitation, he keeps it and throws all the small fish back into the sea. Those who have ears, let them hear. Well, I'm reading about in this. I'm not reading
Yeah.
the Bauman.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just
What number?
It's
Eight,
quite
eight.
similar.
What
They're
number?
very similar.
eight.
Yeah,
Eight.
very similar,
Yeah.
yeah.
There
very
really
similar.
is. There is a parallel with this one, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8. Yeah. That's all right.
Usually Liloop puts the other gospels under the last paragraph of the canonical.
Oh, right, yeah,
If you see Liloop
yes, yeah,
innate, he usually puts which is similar.
right.
I don't have the
It's
book here. So.
It's there. He does that, Cornelia. I see it, but I can't tell you what they all are.
No,
Just-
Sophina has it in Logion 8.
Oh, wow. There's a bunch of
You,
references, though.
Yeah,
yes, there is some. One time I went to all the reference, and not exactly,
No,
but
not exactly.
not exactly, but when the Gospels make some kind of reference to something about that Logion, okay, but not exactly. Okay, but anyway. Hey guys, it's 4:28.
yeah.
That's just about. Shall we pick up on this one next week
Yeah.
and
Oh.
finish?
That sounds good. I don't think I'll be able to be with you. We're flying to Florida for a family wedding that afternoon. So
Have a safe trip.
I will. And I'll listen to the recording.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you. I'll see you the next week I should be able to see you.
Okay.
Okay.
And before we leave, can we just put our hands together and just kind of resonate? It's just, oh yes. I don't know about you, but I feel that.
I do too.
Oh my gosh. It's
Yeah.
so good to be with you. I've missed you.
We
All
miss
right.
you. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
everyone.
bye.
And we'll pick up on this next
Bye-bye.
week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.